Get ready, Staten Island. It's time to celebrate 5 years of Ferry Hawks baseball.
Tuesday, May 19th at 10:30 a.m., it's morning baseball. Wednesday, May 20th at 6:30 p.m., have a pawsome time at Bark in the Park. Thursday, May 21st at 6:30, it's Pride Night with $5 Bud or Bud Light draft beer. Individual game tickets start at just $12.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.
At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV! Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free.
The truth is our
It's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Department of Justice is about to speak on the indictment of Raul Castro and down there in Florida. But I guess it's going to be the U.S. attorney, and who knows, maybe Todd Blanche will show up. And, well, it's a great day. A lot of fascinating things and great things are happening. I'm a little bit sick and tired of the doom and gloom that's all over the place about Republicans and MAGA, because you are bathed in a cold bath of fake news day in and day out. They want you to believe the worst. It's the absolute worst of everything at any given time. Why? Because President Trump is president. That's it. It doesn't go much deeper. You can see this all across the board. Gas prices, right? Gas prices. Oh my God, gas prices. Well, gas prices are $4.50 on average. That is 75 cents lower than the record high under Joe Biden, right? And I looked it up. When they reached that record high in June of 2022, almost 4 years ago exactly, what was in the news? January 6th investigations, Trump trials, this, that, and the other thing. Nonsense. It was, and they hardly ever, or if they did, they buried it. They buried all the big news about gas prices. What else? Iran, the quagmire. Oh my gosh, people! I even heard from a MAGA friend of mine, and I don't like the word. People are pissed. Greg, you have to understand this. People are pissed. They don't want foreign wars. Well, I don't want foreign wars, but every now and then it might be necessary, and you'd be hard pressed to call this thing a war. All right, it's a conflict. We've only lost 13 guys, 13 men and women. I mean, I don't like that at all. I hate that. But it is kind of part of military life in combat. But this is more like a conflict than a war. We've only had 31 days or so of open hostilities where we were actually shooting at them and they were shooting at us. 31 days. Apart from that, we've had a ceasefire that has largely been in effect. I had to show everybody, I made a video last night of George W. Bush being reelected in 2004. And we had two quagmires in full swing at that point. We had Afghanistan and we had Iraq, and no weapons of mass destruction. And he got reelected. When Obama rolls around, gets reelected in 2012, the war in Afghanistan is still going on, big-time quagmire. And Iraq is over, but Guantanamo Bay is still open. He promised to close that day one. Were people pissed? Huh? I never heard about that, actually. Somehow they got off without much of a, Fascinating how things work. Also, the politicization of law enforcement and the rest. Remember this white supremacy stuff that they kept talking about? Day in, day out, right? White supremacy is the gravest threat, blah, 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 blah. Here's Joe Biden saying it, one of 10,000 times where he said it, and he got the government to fake go along with it that it was true. Cut 8.
According to the intelligence community, terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists. That's not me. That's the intelligence community.
That's the intelligence community, the same intelligence community that said the laptop was fake. The same intelligence community said that there were weapons of mass destruction. The same intelligence community that said Donald Trump was the preferred candidate and colluded with Russia, by Russia, of Russia. The intelligence community. They work for Democrats. They work for the deep state. They work for themselves. They are known to go against Democrats from time to time. Nobody can really control these guys. You can be in temporary custodian, but that's about it. I want to go a little bit more on the shooting in San Diego. To recap, when did certain cops become such wussies? You know, when you're a cop, you got to be clear-eyed, a little bit cold. You know, the rest of us can cry and moan when things go wrong, when there's a death. These guys got to be super sharp and professional. You don't want to be like that sheriff, do you? When Mrs. Guthrie went missing, cut 5.
We really just want Mom back, okay? Right now, we believe Nancy is still out there. We want her home.
Yeah, like it was his own mom. And that attitude, because it's not checked by anybody, you get points for it. You get points from the media. All it does, though, is really it masquerades incompetence. And I'm starting to see it more and more and more. It also inhibits the press from asking real questions of these guys. So you can have a mass shooting of 3 people at that mosque in San Diego, and people want to know what the hell happened. What is this all about? How does it affect me? And they can actually look at the camera and say something like this and get away with it. Cut 1.
What you will not hear from us today is the names of these 2 suspects. Today is about our victims and our community coming back together again. And I have to say, the courage and the strength that Imam Taha has shown in the last 24 hours is beyond inspiring.
Beyond inspiring. How inspiring is he? I saw the guy speak. He was wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Kind of inappropriate given the occasion, to be honest. I am beyond inspired by this imam I met 2 hours ago. What's the big deal? Get over yourself. Look at Mamdani right now. Mamdani and his silly police commissioner and the governor lay out crime prevention measures, right? And they're talking about crime prevention. It's a press. It's a photo op. That's all it is a photo op. A woman got out of her car, parked her car legally in New York City, opened her door, stepped out, and went down a manhole, for crying out loud. Went down a manhole. And what happened? Did she die of, very serious broken bones or, head injury from the fall? No. Turned out she died of smoke inhalation and extreme heat. There's a lot of steam down there sometimes in this sewer, and that's what killed her. And everybody in this city is ho-hum. Let's see what else we can do for transgender youth. Let's see what other bogus program we can come up with that has nothing to do with anything. The city, the government in general, really doesn't have the bandwidth to do all the crazy nonsense it's doing and engaged with. You got to stick to the basics. The moment you start launching trans kids day camp awareness, the city's going to go down. The country is going to go down. Back to the shooter in San Diego. Now, they have information, but they won't share with us the information. And then it leads to speculation. Who the hell were these guys? Who were they? Why did they do it? What the hell? This is the FBI talking about what they saw, but listen to how they hold back. All right? They won't tell us what they know. Cut 3, if you don't mind. Cut 3.
In the vehicle they used, we also identified writings and various ideologies outlining religious and racial beliefs of how the world they envisioned should look. These subjects did not discriminate on who they hated.
All right. So they did not discriminate. So they hated everybody. What do you mean by that? So they hated the Islam? Is that it? What's going on? Talk to us. Talk to us like we're adults. But they won't do that because they don't respect us. Next up, this is the FBI, again, giving us the runaround, which they're pretty good at, actually. They're pretty good at. Cut 4.
I can confirm there has been a manifesto that's been recovered. I would reiterate it's early on in the investigation. We are dedicating every resource the FBI has to conduct a thorough analysis of that manifesto to try to learn what led to this, but I think also more importantly, how can we stop future attacks? So I know there's a lot of questions related to this on the community. What I would just continue to reiterate is they didn't discriminate on who they hated. It covered a wide aspect of races and religions.
More than just the Islamic people in that church.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, more than just the Islamic. Okay, so they hated everybody. But you have to give us a point of view. Why are you treating us? Because the online, the speculation is raging, and there's this weird kind of almost cheering and rooting, not because of what happened, but there are people looking to find the kind of perpetrator they want, right? One that they're comfortable with. Obviously, the left would love it if these guys were wearing MAGA red hats. You see, look at them. They're white supremacists and racists. And quite frankly, I mean, for us, it would be suspicions confirmed. We don't have to look very far. In fact, I think there may still be a trans element to this, but the one guy looks trans. They both look a little bit trans. One guy had one of his chin pierced. You know, you got ear piercings, nose piercings. This guy had his chin pierced. Somehow he got jewelry in his... And that is sometimes, they look trans to me. What can I tell you? And they put out a manifesto. Yes, they did. It is full of all kinds of hate. They explicitly say they're not MAGA. They hate MAGA. They hate Trump. But here's something what they call themselves. Accelerationists. An accelerationist. Have you ever heard this? I've never heard this. I've heard of an accelerant for fire, gas, that kind of thing. They also had markings on their guns, just like the trans shooter did in Minneapolis a while back. Remember? Went into that beautiful Catholic church and killed a couple of 8-year-olds. Listen to this from the manifesto. I am also an accelerationist. I believe that accelerating towards the destruction of our current political system and towards an all-out race war for the purposes of a societal collapse is the only real way forward. I don't believe there is a diplomatic solution to the problem we currently find ourselves in, as they would never allow it. While I do somewhat like movements like Patriot Front, America First, and various nationalist, socialist political movements, I don't believe a diplomatic approach of protesting, voting, and infiltration could ever do anything to topple or even fix the current system of government. What we need is total dropout revolution. Well, a couple of things there. You know what he sounds like? Charles Manson. This is what Charles Manson actually did. This is what they were, the motive in 1969. They wanted to go and commit those crimes, kill Sharon Tate, kill Roman Polanski, although he wasn't home, kill Abigail Folger, kill those Italian people on the other street, and make it look like black people did it somehow. They thought the world would suspect black people did it. And that would bring on a race war, helter-skelter. Pretty crazy, right? And it hasn't, I mean, this is, some people are there, oh my gosh, how is this happening? You know, we've seen it before. We have. It's gotten worse, though. It has definitely gotten worse. The numbers are up. And also, these kids are on all kinds of drugs that we know cause homicidal ideation. If they can cause suicidal ideation, it can also cause homicidal. And don't forget these crazy video games. If you're heading into summer without a medical emergency kit, you're taking a risk. Most people don't think about it until it's too late. Summer colds linger and can turn into sinus infections that last for weeks. Getting sick right before vacation can derail everything. And when you're traveling, finding a doctor and pharmacy is stressful. That's why I ordered a medical emergency kit. It's like having urgent care in a pharmacy right at home. It includes essential prescriptions like amoxicillin and generic Z-Paks to treat a wide range of common and serious illnesses. So if you wake up sick at home or on the road, you already have what you need. No waiting room for your doctor, no hours at urgent care, no pharmacy lines, no copays. Just match your symptoms to the right prescription in your guidebook, or you can call their telemedicine doctor standing by. Start on your meds sooner and feel better faster. Every home needs at least one medical emergency kit. Order yours online in 30 minutes and it's shipped to your door. and save $45 with my promo code Greg. Okay, at urgentcarekit.com/Greg. That is urgentcarekit.com/Greg. urgentcarekit.com/Greg. And they're going to ask you for the promo code. You put in Greg, $45 off. urgentcarekit.com/Greg. Be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, just checking out Fox News real quick. New video shows Marines boarding Iranian flag tanker as part of the blockade. Every now and then they put this stuff out. Okay, that's fine. One moment I want to talk about, you may have seen it, Seth Moulton. Does anybody know who Seth Moulton is? Not really. He's a congressman, Moulton, total jerk. Like most of these guys who serve in the military, he won't shut up about having served in the military. And you're ruining it for all of us who served in the military. All right? I mean, it's like, what about, it was service, right? And you guys, all you do is brag about it. You're just bragging about it. And somehow your opinion, because you served, is more important than anybody else's who didn't serve. It doesn't work that way, man. The military is around to achieve basically civilian objectives, right? That are derived by civilians. Anyway, you guys execute. But Moulton had a plan. He said, I'm going to do what John Kerry did, but I'll do it just the way John Kerry did. I'm going to join the Marines. I'm going to go to Iraq, and I'm going to complain about the Iraq war. And I'll become a star like John Kerry did. And he pulled this, like directly. I always knew this about him, but to hear him quote John Kerry out loud without citing John Kerry. All right, so he's talking to Admiral Cooper, all right, the 4-star guy who's running Central Command and all the war effort. Go ahead, if you don't mind. Go ahead.
For a broad range of contingencies. Well, it doesn't seem to be going well. And I would like to know how many more Americans we have to ask to die for this mistake. Do you know? I think it's an entirely inappropriate statement from you, sir. With all due respect. With all due respect. It's not a statement, it's a question.
Sure, not recognize the gentleman from Tennessee, Dr. Desjardins.
Admiral Cooper.
Can I just, how do you ask anybody to die for this mistake? Now, that's what John Kerry said. How do you ask the last man to die in Vietnam for a mistake? It was very dramatic. Back then, we were naive. A lot of people ate it up, except John O'Neill and the Swift Boat Veterans for Truth. God bless those guys. Then again, in 2004, George W. Bush did not deserve to be reelected, but John Kerry did not deserve to be elected. The guy facilitated the war in Iraq, was all in, because that was what the smart Democrats did, to show you were a hawkish, that you weren't some stereotypical weak Democrat dove. Al Gore became vice president of the United States because he supported the first Gulf War. Oh, he did that. I'll do that too. Thanks for nothing, John. And you too, Seth Moulton. Moulton. He can't be president because of the name. Every president we've ever had, you can understand the name. The most complicated name was Eisenhower, and we shortened it to Ike. Moulton, what could you do? Call him Mo? Mo. Actually, that might work, come to think of it. Congressman Mo. President Mo?
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, what a day. I'm so pleased that Doug Brunt, one of the coolest, greatest gentlemen I've ever met in my life. True story, Doug. Doug Brunt is a successful author, also has a career in finance behind him, venture capital, you name it. Doug Brunt just wrote The Lost Empire of Emmanuel Noble, Romanovs, Revolutionaries, and the Forgotten Titan Who Fueled the World. This is his latest book. I don't know how many he's had now. 10? He'll tell us the right number. Doug Brunt, welcome back. How are you?
Back with you.
Doug, I mean that about you being a gentleman. Did I tell you that story? What happened? Why I think that of you? And you are, but did I ever...
I'm trying to recall, but I would love to hear it again, even if I have.
I don't think I had to. I walked into a New York party, and it was like a who's who. This is a long time ago. This is about 13, 14 years ago. And, I'm like, who am I? I'm a local guy here. I didn't feel like I knew anybody. And I saw beautiful people all over the place. and just everybody seemed to be in the know, and everybody seemed to have somebody to talk to. And I looked up, and I see a guy, tall guy, very good looking, talking to somebody, and people are, around him. I'm like, look at that guy. He must be a prince or something like that. And he's got it made. And then you looked at me and said, "Oh, hey, Greg." And you were the night. It was like, oh my God, I know him. That's Doug. And it was just amazing because, also a lesson for me. You think the whole world's against you, and it's not. You know what I mean?
I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I mean, I could turn that story right around on you because I remember seeing you cover some news from conflict zones. You're out in war zones, and you're like, you got blood coming down the forehead, and you're doing it. I'm like, that guy is a stud. Holy cow!
Well, Doug, thank you for that, and congratulations on the book. Hey, is the life of a writer ever lonely?
Yes, but I actually love my alone time. I really enjoy getting into the office and spending. Usually, I'm writing from maybe 8:30 a.m. to about lunchtime, and I look forward to that time. Not everybody enjoys their solitary time, but I really do. It's special time for me, so it works out.
What book is this? What number?
I've written 3 novels, and this is my second nonfiction book. So the last book was called The Mysterious Case of Rudolf Diesel, about the inventor of the diesel engine who disappeared right before World War I. And it's narrative history. It's nonfiction, but told in a novelistic way, sort of like an Eric Larson style of book. This is my second nonfiction book. This is The Lost Empire of Emmanuel Nobel. And I think your audience will connect with this book because the quest to capture the sources of energy is the story of our times. You open up any newspaper, it's Venezuela, Iran, whatever. The story of Emmanuel Nobel and his oil empire in the early days of the Russian Empire. He essentially pioneered the Russian oil industry in the late 1800s. That's the original oil war. Emmanuel Nobel is the nephew of Alfred Nobel. That's the one we know because he got out of Russia and he was really living and working in Western Europe. He invented dynamite and established the Nobel Prizes. But his nephew Emmanuel was far more successful, far bigger an industrialist, pioneered a Russian oil company that became larger than Standard Oil by World War I. And then toward the end of the war, the Russian Revolution, the Bolsheviks take over. What Stalin did to Emmanuel Nobel is the inspiration for George Orwell's 1984. There's a passage in that novel that talks about they changed the street names, they ripped down the statues, they rewrote the history. That's what Orwell's talking about there is what Stalin did to Emmanuel Nobel. He completely absconded with his oil empire. He renamed it from Nobel Brothers Petroleum Company. This was along the Caspian Sea, what was then the Russian Empire, to call it the Soviet Petroleum Company. And Nobel also in the north by St. Petersburg had a munitions and engine factory where he made diesel engines. And they renamed that Ruski Diesel. They basically, had this massive collision in the wake of the Russian Civil War between Emmanuel Nobel and Joseph Stalin.
Wow. You learn a lot about a lot of stuff. It sounds like you're how old was he when he died?
Let's see. He was born in 1859 and he died in 1932. So 74.
Was he happy?
73. I would say not really toward the end because I don't want to give away too much of the book, but as part of this collision, there's this crazy escape that he has. He's basically in a refugee town. It's actually sort of a spa resort where some of the Romanovs are also kind of sitting on the sidelines hoping these Bolsheviks don't last. And nobody thought they would. Trotsky, Lenin, Stalin, they'd never run anything in their lives, let alone this massive, wacky empire. So people thought they are, a couple of months, these guys are going to fall on their face. And so Emmanuel Nobel's riding this out in this resort town, along with a number of other aristocracy, from St. Petersburg, and hoping that they can rejoin Russia if the White Army can prevail in the Russian Civil War over Stalin and the Red Army. Of course, that doesn't happen. And so he makes this very harrowing escape and returns to the country of origin of the Nobels. I mean, Alfred Nobel and the rest of the Nobels had been of Swedish origin. So he returns with plenty of dough in his pocket. He managed to salvage some things. It was an international business, so he lost the bulk of his empire in Russia, but he was not penniless. But he was certainly, I would say, fairly... he got the losing end of the stick all here.
They stole his stuff. Communists steal your stuff.
Exactly right. Overnight, they nationalized more than 9,000 businesses that included not only the oil concern along the Caspian Sea in southern Russia, but all of his manufacturing and engine plant up in northern Russia.
So does this, bring it to today? I mean, we have socialists in America. They're getting elected to big jobs, and they're saying stuff like that. We're going to seize. That's the ultimate goal. Mamdani said that. Mm-hmm. Any overtones, what we are seeing in America, what Mr. Nobel lived through, prior to the 1917 and all that stuff?
Yes, 100%. As you read this book, it echoes throughout. The epigraph of the book is from a playwright who wrote, "There is no present or future, only the past happening over and over and over again." And you see, as you read through what was happening in the late 1800s, the early 1900s, it echoes through to today. And so when Nobel is sort of hiding out in this resort town behind the White Army, he gets a letter from Moscow, from Lenin and Stalin, summoning Citizen Nobel, please come to Baku and to the oil concerns where you can help us, figure out how we're going to take this over and continue to run it. Because Stalin, who grew up in southern Russia, in the country of Georgia, actually worked in the oil fields of Nobel and Rothschild. The Rothschilds were the other major Russian oil concern at the time. And he was encouraging Lenin that we need to nationalize this. We need to take over the oil. And Lenin was hesitating. He's like, look, if we don't get these guys who run it currently to help us, we need their cooperation, because there's no one in the communist government who actually knows how to run any of this stuff. We can take it over, and then the production's going to trickle to nothing, and then we're lost. We've got no oil, so we need them to continue to run it. So they summon Nobel and try to get him to cooperate with this nationalization scheme in which they're basically going to take everything from him. And the Nobel executives get together. They have this meeting where there's this great letter that said, they're asking us to drive the hearse at our own third-class funeral. So.
Wild. I love that. Let me ask you something. Let's face it, everybody's on their phone. There is something delicious and special. I don't do it as much as I used to, but I love when I do it. When you read a book, it's like, oh my gosh, what have I been missing?
Yeah, it like activates parts of the brain that have been left a little dormant.
And when you're not writing, you're reading, aren't you?
I read a ton. Yeah, I read a lot for research, and then a lot of outside books. I love a good Erik Larson read, of which this is basically something like that. And and I'll dip between fiction and nonfiction.
Well, one of the small, other than your erudition and everything, but there are pictures in this book, which is good for me and I think good for the reader. You'd be surprised. There is a trend going on right now, Doug, where major nonfiction books that beg for pictures are coming out without pictures. And my impression is that the author is just not asking for them, because you can get pictures in the book. It's not that much more expensive.
Yeah.
Is it kind of I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking about what's his name's book, Gavin Newsom, which I'm kind of obsessed with because it's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. All right. Now, the book is, once again, The Lost Empire of Emmanuel Nobel. Is it on audio or Audible?
I read the audio in the book, yeah. For the first time ever, I read I did my own audiobook.
Unabridged? Abridged?
It better be I don't know. It's it's the full book. I'm sure they edited me to make me sound a little better, but yeah.
I bet it's unabridged. I feel like they're holding stuff back, so you can get it on Audible as well.
Actually, Apple Books. So Apple Books started this new thing. They have their picks of the month, of which this is one. But last month they pick only one nonfiction book, and they call it the Conversation Starter. So last month for April, it was called London Falling, which is a terrific book. If you've heard about that, it's getting a little bit of buzz. But the second ever is The Lost Empire of Emmanuel Nobel. It is the Apple Books pick of the month as the Conversation Starter. Because there are so many ties to present day. I mean, if you're interested in what's in the news now, this story of Emmanuel Nobel from turn of the century, the last century, is right on the target.
A couple more things about him. Was he a prodigy? Was he really smart as a kid?
He was super smart, but he was more of a financier. His father was more of an engineering genius. There's so much in this book I wish we had more time to go into, but his father invented the world's first ever oil tanker. Most people thought it couldn't be done, to develop these steel cisterns in the hull of the ship and have it secure enough to travel the oceans. His father invented that, which is really one of the things that rocked Standard Oil back on its heels, because suddenly the Nobels, in this incredibly plentiful, oil-rich land in Baku along the Caspian, literally oil is bubbling to the surface in puddles. They wouldn't even drill. They were just skimming it off the surface as you walk around. It's insane. There was so much oil there. And they were the first to really start sending it around the world in oil tankers. So he was super smart as a financier and sort of a diplomat and a businessman, and his father was an engineer.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm kind of curious, actually, because anti-Semitism is alive and well. Were they Jewish?
They were not Jewish, but they were very Jewish-friendly. And the Rothschilds, so in Russia, in Europe in general, anti-Semitism was rampant.
Yeah.
In Russia, it was particularly bad. And that was harder for the Rothschilds, who were the other major oil concern in Russia, because it was just so uphill for them being Jewish. The Nobels were not Jewish, but they were not anti-Semitic either. In fact, they worked with a number of Jewish families, both as investors and business partners.
Have you already been on Mrs. Doug Brunt, also known as Megyn Kelly's podcast yet? Megyn Kelly is your spouse. Have you done her show?
Yesterday was the day. We had a little chat about Nobel. We had a little champagne, which I'm wondering where the champagne is around here.
Yeah, sorry. If I start drinking champagne, the party will last until Tuesday.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's go.
Well, give Megyn our best. I know she's very proud of you. We watched her on X, and we're very proud of her. I mean, my gosh, she has revolutionized media, and it's got to be pretty sweet.
She's doing great, and she says hello.
Thank you very, very much. And okay, a couple of quick things. If you want to look like Doug, and you do, by the way, tall, slim, but not skinny, and very, very smart. I am kind of curious, daily routines. Do you mind if I ask you? What time do you wake up?
Around 6. And
alarm or no alarm?
No, almost. I set one, but it never goes off. I have this weird thing. I was just saying, we had this dinner the other night where someone's like, we went around the table, what's your superpower? My superpower is I wake up 3 minutes before my alarm almost every day, no matter where I set the alarm. If I have to get up at 4 for a flight, I'll be up at 3:57. So I'm up early, coffee, in bed. Meg and I have coffee together in bed. We listen to AM Update, the Megyn Kelly AM Update that pops out every morning at 6 a.m., which is about 20 minutes. We listen to that, get the kids off to school, come back and write. In terms of staying in shape, the only thing I really do is play tennis once or twice a week. That's like my main thing. And other than that, I'll try to get up every couple hours from writing and do like a quick walk around the neighborhood or something like that. But I mostly work from home.
You remind me, you wrote a book about tennis, Trophy Son, I think the name of it was.
Yes, good memory.
It's actually a great novel. I've given it as a gift to a couple of tennis guys because it's just a cool book. And it's about a tennis star and his adventures, and it's terrific. Well, you really are a great writer. And Douglas Brunt, before we say goodbye, you know who I miss? Nelson DeMille. And I know Nelson DeMille, yes. Long Island, and everybody knows, best-selling author, but was a friend and a mentor of yours. I'm right in saying that, right? He was a mentor.
He was. It's funny you say that because I was hoping it would come up because I just got back from the Framer this letter that Nelson gave. I mean, he was a great mutual friend. I know you guys were very tight as well. He wrote a letter to me early on when I had just met him back in maybe 2012, 11 or 12. And it was a letter of advice on how to deal with agents and publishers and just the industry and the career as a writer in general. And so his writing, as you know, was horrific. So it's a typed letter, hand signed by him, that came in the mail. They're so old school. You know, nobody sent now like formal is text message. You know, most kids are snapping, whatever the hell that is. So a text is formal, and email is absurdly formal. That's like if you're applying for a job, let alone a handwritten note or a hand signed note, in this case, typed and hand signed. So anyway, I had it framed, and it's in my office.
That's amazing. Beautiful. Yeah, he wrote books that way, too. That's how he wrote his books.
Yeah, with a number 1 pencil. Whatever the softer lead pencil is what he used.
Oh, well, Nelson, I know you're proud, very proud of Doug, and hopefully me a little bit, too. We miss you, but Douglas Brunt, The Lost Empire of Emmanuel Nobel, Romanovs, Revolutionaries, and the Forgotten Titan Who Fueled the World. Available wherever books are sold. You got any book events coming up? You're going to be doing the signing thing that kind of going by the wayside a little bit.
Yeah, I'm doing less and less of that. I'll schedule a couple of events around libraries and things like that coming up. Going to do something in New Canaan, Connecticut later this week. But
you never know. You know, you say then all kinds of freaks and weirdos show up.
Yeah.
I hope you're going to be going to talk to Netflix and those people because this has a mini series or movie written all over it, in my opinion. Doug Brunt. Thank you very much.
Great to be with you, Greg. Thanks.
All right, folks, we'll be right back.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
What you will not hear from us today is the names of these two suspects. Today is about our victims in our community coming back together again. And I have to say, the courage and the strength that Imam Taha has shown in the last 24 hours is beyond inspiring.
Oh, Imam Taha. Wow, I'm so inspired. No offense to Imam Taha. I know he's been through a lot, but you're a cop and you shouldn't be inspired. You should just be doing your job right now and telling the people what you can. Hey, they're indicting the head of Cuba, Raul. Actually, he's no longer the head of Cuba. He retired a little while ago, but the attorney general in Florida is making an announcement right now about indicting Raul Castro, brother of Fidel. Let's go ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, wait, she used to be the attorney general. Now she's the senator. She was appointed U.S. senator. Go ahead, if you don't mind.
For men, for their families, and indeed for freedom. And I want to tell you, when Governor DeSantis appointed me to be your newest United States Senator, he did so and said, I want you to take everything you know about this state, every person you've met with, everything you've learned, every battle you've fought to make Florida what it is, take that to Washington and let's get things done. And I am so proud to be here today to say we got things done. And so on today, May 20th, on the day that Cuba became a free and independent state, I would like to end my visit with you by reading the following. And it is a penalty sheet in the Southern District of Florida, United States District Court, advising that Raul Castro will face count 1, conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals, facing a maximum term of imprisonment of life imprisonment. Counts 2 and 3, destruction of aircraft, facing a maximum term of imprisonment on each count of up to 5 years in prison. And counts 4 through 7, the charges of murder, facing a maximum term of imprisonment on each count of death or life imprisonment. God bless you. God bless this great free state of Florida and our United States of America.
Wow. Sounds like that guy's in a lot of trouble. He's never gonna get arrested. I think this is very symbolic. Now, okay, here's the Attorney General of Florida, a guy named Utmeyer. Utmeyer. Here he comes.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here and support Attorney General Blanche, Senator Moody, and your great United States Attorney, Jason Redding Quinones. Communist revolution always begins with the same utopian lie, a classless, stateless paradise of abundance and freedom. But we know the reality. In reality, there is no abundance, nor freedom. Rather, it obstructs individual personal property rights.
All right. The Attorney General, Todd Blanche, who's kicking ass, by the way, he'll be around right when we come back. That's how this is going to all time out.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?